What's up, guys? Cables here to bring you my review of Star Wars: The Clone Wars Season 5, Episodes 2 and 3. And I'm back. The reason why I didn't do these reviews is because I was all sick at the time and also had problems with my internet. But all that's taken care of. I'm feeling much better, and I figured, yeah, I owe you guys my review for Episodes 2 and 3. So let's get right into it. So pretty much episode 2, the title of that episode was A War on Two Fronts, and pretty much this episode was about how the planet of Alderaan was taken by the Separatists. And usually, what always happens with this when the Separatists take over a planet is that they remove all the government leaders, especially if it's a king or queen, and they pretty much replace them with another replacement king or queen. But usually, the person who's replacing the leader, usually is somebody who betrayed who was someone who was already in the government or was a spy or betrayed the trust of the leader. That usually what happens is that that person usually ends up being the new leader. But they're not really the true, like this guy. He's not really the true king. Like he's pretty much a pawn in a much bigger game for the Separatists. He thinks that he has power, but he really doesn't. He's just there for political reasons. And pretty much the Jedi Council, they get a call from Lux Bonteri, who we see his return, and we find out that Lux is from the planet of Alderaan, and that his mother represented the planet on the Senate, and he asks the Jedi help for combating the droids because the group of rebels that he's with, they don't know how to fight droids at all, and they keep losing battles and they need help. We also see another new character, Shaw. He was with them during the when Lux was talking to the Jedi Council, and they need the help to survive the whole thing. And Anakin come up with the idea of pretty much of them training the rebels so that the rebels would attack, deal with what they have to do and take control of the planet, while the Republic would go in at the same time and take over the planet as well, and almost attacking the Separatists on two different fronts. And of course, Obi-Wan, when he was thinking about this, he always thinks of the negatives before the positives. And he was saying how this might be an act of terrorism and might hurt the civilians. But Yoda had agreed with the whole idea, but with the exception that this would only affect the droids when it comes to combat. And so Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Captain Rex would go and sneak on the planet to train these rebels. Now, I thought it was so ironic was that Anakin came up with this idea because we all know what happens 20 something years later on in the series where as Darth Vader, he has to deal with all these rebels, and he probably was thinking to himself back then, damn, like why the hell did I come up with this idea? Also, so they go into the planet of Alderaan, they begin training the rebels, and one of the rebels we see also is Steela, who happens to have feelings for Lux, and we all know Ahsoka's past with Lux, that she has feelings for him as well, which starts the whole pairing wars for this series, if it's to be Lux and Ahsoka or Lux and Steela. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of pairings within any different types of series, but I would say that I would want Ahsoka to become independent because I believe that she is very close to being a Jedi Knight, and hopefully she doesn't die, in season 5. That she actually makes it to being a Jedi Knight, and then possibly her death happens later on. But I see her becoming a Jedi Knight very closely, with her um, improvement with the Force and her lightsaber skills. That's my opinion, anyways. And so, pretty much throughout this whole episode, you see the growing tension between Steela and Ahsoka, even though, they have a mutual respect for one another because, they have a job to do, but that growing tension, you just see it when Ahsoka's looking at Steela or Steela's looking at Ahsoka. And so they're training how to combat the different types of droids and the tanks. And I kind of thought that Captain Rex would do a lot more than he did because the clone troopers, they do a lot more fighting with the droids that's closely resembled to the combat style of that of the rebels. Because the Jedi, I mean, the only things they use is the Force and their lightsabers. They don't use blaster rifles, grenades, or those electric charges that they use to immobilize the droids. They don't use weapons like that. So I was thinking maybe they could have had another ARC trooper or two. Maybe fives would be there to train. Play a bigger role. But it is what it is. They got the point of how to fight the droids. And what happened was they were put to the test because some of the droids were spying on the rebel group, and they pretty much launched a surprise attack. And at first, Anakin and Obi-Wan were like, "Yo, we'll cover you. You guys need to leave." But Steela, she stepped up and she was like, "No, we are not leaving. We need to take out these droids with all the training." And she was commanding the rebels, and they were taking out some droids. And she did this nice move where she shot the locks to where the animals were, and pretty much the animals escaped. They all crushed all the droids at the same time, and the droids had to, were all done with. And Lux and Saw were able to work together because in the beginning of this episode, Saw and Lux weren't really getting along because Saw was kind of a guy who was more aggressive, wanted to, fight the droids one on one. But Lux was kind of a political mind where he wanted to think about the people and think of strategies. But they were able to work together, and the tank was destroyed, and everything went well. The rebels did a good job, and Lux in the end came up with the idea of pretty much infiltrating the capital city so that they can attack the separatist army a lot better, and also get some recruits, by the way, because they need all the help they can to reclaim Alderaan, their planet. And that's pretty much how episode 2 ended. I liked the episode, but it was kind of slow paced. But episode 3 gets a lot, faster paced and a lot more action. But I did like episode 2. I like the whole thing of seeing the rebels and just seeing a different group of people, fight the droids, because we always see the clone troopers fight droids, but a different type of group with their own unique style in it. It's pretty cool to see. I like that. So now let's get into episode 3. The entire episode 3 was front runners, and pretty much all the rebels are in the capital city, and they're doing small attacks to attacking the droids. However, the people are afraid, just like Obi-Wan had seen the same thing with Ahsoka. And the people why they're afraid is because they don't believe that the rebels can actually inflict major damage, that they can actually defeat the droid army. They need a really big make an impact so that the people will rally behind them, because the people are very important for the rebels. And so pretty much Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Rex leave. And Anakin basically, told Ahsoka, because Ahsoka was picked to stay on the planet and pretty much be advisors, because the Jedi couldn't really help the rebels. They can only help them in support, but they can't really, fight alongside them as much as they want to, because the rebels need to learn how to fend for themselves and survive on their own. And pretty much, Anakin realizes that Ahsoka has lost her focus, and to tell her, to maintain it. And you see in this episode, in episode 3, the parents aren't really focused as much, but you still see that tension that in her look in Ahsoka's eyes when she looks at Steela and then Lux. It bothers her a little bit, and she can't help it. And Lux came up with a plan to pretty much attack this power generator and destroy it, because by destroying this power generator, the droids won't be able to recharge, which is a smart move because you want to get rid of all the droids that you can. And the idea was pretty much to attack a group of droids so that a tank would appear and take over the tank, which was successful, by the way, and take out the, the power generator, pretty much. I like the action here. We know with Steela, her being a sniper, exactly hitting the dome and attacking the super battle droids and everything was pretty cool to see. And Saw is pretty good too, I have to say. I like Saw's combat. He's smooth. It was pretty cool how he just ripped the head off that droid, and I didn't realize that droids were that fragile, unless Saw is pretty strong. But I thought that the droids would last a little bit longer. Like it would take time to take a head off of a droid, but it was easy. And so they were able to take out the power generator, and they were celebrating, and they were in the streets. They were like, for Alderaan, freedom for Alderaan, and the people are really rallying behind the rebels now, and possibly in the future, they will get more recruits. And the king, pretty much the pretend king, he at the beginning he talked to the previous king, because he knew he wanted these rebels to be stopped with, but they're causing more and more damage, so he had to call Big Daddy Count Dooku for help. And Count Dooku, as him, he does not accept failure, so he decided to get this droid general, to pretty much command the droid army so that they could take out these rebels once and for all. And the rebels are celebrating, and you still see Ahsoka still has that whole thing with Lux and Steela. But in the end, though, Steela actually becomes the leader of the group, which is no surprise to me, because Steela She proves from episode 2 that she is a great leader. That she takes in charge. She knows what she's doing, and it's always good to see this a strong female character. You don't really get to see that much in different type of TV shows. It was good to see that with Steela. And of course, Shaw, he was kind of disappointed because he wanted to be the leader, so he kind of just left. And we find out that Steela and Shaw are related; they are brother and sister. And the thing is, I don't think that Shaw's going to betray the rebel group, but it's just going to be he's going to be really resistant to taking orders from Steela because Shaw is older than Steela, and to take orders from his little sister, it's going to bother him a little bit, but he probably is going to get over it later on, either in this trilogy or four-part series of this what do you call it, Alderaan arc, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, episode 3, I enjoyed it a lot more than episode 2. It was a lot more action. This arc is really looking great. It's good to see the planet of Alderaan because we never know what it looks like because it gets blown up. But yeah, it was good to see this rebel group, and we all know how this rebel group is really foreshadowing the Rebel Alliance to come later on, the 20 years later. But yeah, I liked it, and Ahsoka's there. I kind of like when Ahsoka has her own type of missions or her side stories with this as well. Yeah, so everything, episode 3 was good. I'm looking forward to the continuation of this arc. Let me know your thoughts down below, what you like about it, what you think about Shaw and Steela, the pairings, if you want to discuss down below. Just don't get too hostile in the comment section below, who you think should be together or not. Thank you for watching this review, and I will do episode my full review on Saturday, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you guys later. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. I'm dragging this on. Peace.